Life Aboard the Ark, and I'm here with a familiar face who's been on the podcast a couple times. This is Dr. Warden, in case you haven't watched before, and he is one of our exotic doctors. One of the main things that he sees here are our exotic patients. So today we're going to focus on small furry exotics and birds. We're going to give you some ideas about how to care for them at home, some common illnesses to look out for, and then at a later time we're going to talk reptiles, just because those are a little bit more complicated and they're not always beginner-friendly animals. So we want to give them their own time. Yeah.
Yeah, because even, birds and rabbits and all the other things we're going to talk about aren't necessarily easy animals to take care of. But reptiles get very nuanced, and you can't keep... Sometimes even two bearded dragons don't want the same thing, let alone a bearded dragon and a leopard gecko and a snake, and there's just a whole lot that goes into it.
Yeah. So we're going to start today talking about small furry animals. So the main ones that we're going to see here are rabbits, which is probably the bread and butter of small furry exotics as to what we see here, guinea pigs, and chinchillas. And they all kind of have similar basic care needs. They need a good quality pellet to eat, and they need free access to hay all of the time. We don't really recommend oxbow. Is what we carry here. They make really good food. And they don't have to have anything special beyond those two things. Veggies are nice. We like to offer veggies, but it's not something that they absolutely have to have offered to them 100% of the time.
And it's one of those, as long as you're feeding a good quality pellet, if you pick up some not so great stuff from a sketchy store or whatever, especially if you look at it and it's bright and colorful and filled with sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, not so good. But the good quality pellets have a lot of those micronutrients in them to help kind of close the gap in what the hay isn't providing. And with especially guinea pigs, chinchillas, rabbits, they're what we call hindgut fermenters, so they do a lot of digestion after their small intestine. And that's why if you ever hear of night feces or cecotropes, a lot of them will go back and eat those because it's much more energy dense, and that's what really keeps them fed.
Yeah, they don't process things the way that your dog or your cat might. So that's what makes them pretty unique. So you need to make sure that you're offering good quality hay and pellets, free access to water. And then some of the things that you're going to want to look out for with these theory-specific animals as far as main concerns are going to be GI stasis is like the biggest small furry exotic animal problem.
Stasis isn't itself a disease, is kind of the way that we're taught. A lot of the times there's something underlying that's going to cause it. Unfortunately, though, sometimes that underlying thing is there was a big boom of thunder last night that scared me and now I don't want to eat. And it kind of snowballs. They don't eat, they get gassy, that makes them painful, they keep not wanting to eat because now they're painful, and it just keeps going. And breaking that cycle and getting food into them is one of the biggest things. So if you have, and most of the time is rabbits or guinea pigs, but you have one that doesn't want to eat and it's been 6 to 8 hours, go ahead and start thinking about calling.
Yeah. And I always think of rabbits like small horses. If they stop eating, you've got a really big problem.
Yeah.
And you've got to work on it like right now. They also hide things like cats do, like they hide their pain and they hide their, like if they just don't feel well in general. So it's really, really hard to know that there's something wrong with them until it's really wrong, because once your rabbit's lethargic, you're kind of in a bad spot, and that's an emergency.
Yeah, and it's tricky too, because like she's saying, they will hide stuff. And then there are some things that can show up as different issues, like stasis not being a true disease. If they have dental issues, their teeth are messed up, sometimes that's what causes stasis. Sometimes it's neurologic disease or infection. Again, sometimes it's stress. It can be organ issues. It can be so many things that just because they're not eating doesn't mean we know what's going on either. And that's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah. So that's why you want to make sure that your husbandry, when you keep these small furry animals, is as close to perfect as possible. So that starts with good food. It starts with a really good habitat for them. You don't want to keep a large rabbit in a small cage all the time. It doesn't provide good enrichment for them, and they get bored the same way that your cat or your dog would get bored. And you want to try to limit that amount of stress.
Yep.
So what are you thinking, like if we have a 5-pound rabbit, that's pretty normal-ish size for a rabbit. What size do you normally recommend for cages? Yeah, I know.
And it's a bit of a trick question, because part of it too is if they can come out of the cage and they hop around and they're behaving themselves, not chewing on electrical cords or whatever like they like to.
Yeah.
I think giving them that free time out of their cage also provides some really good enrichment. And you can get toys to help, especially the more natural, like the wooden blocks or the hay-based toys that they can chew on that don't have a whole bunch of artificial colors and dyes and metal and stuff like that that isn't good for them. I think in theory bigger is always better. There are definitely some, you get them, the 12-foot long cage or whatever, they're going to stay in one half because it's too big. But don't go to the store and get them a cage for your 5-pound rabbit that they can barely turn around, and they should be pretty comfortably able to move around and have their bathroom area and a little hide or a hut or whatever, and some food and just open space to stretch and do all of the normal things.
And it's important for them to have somewhere to hide because they are prey animals, and they need to be able to feel comfortable in a nice, small, dark, enclosed space. Pause. So then one of the other things that I feel like we see rabbits and guinea pigs especially a lot for is spay-neuter, because if you don't spay or neuter your rabbit, if they're housed together, a male and a female, then you're not going to have 2 rabbits anymore. You're going to have 12 rabbits.
Breeding like rabbits for a reason.
Yeah, really fast.
And there are some too that feel like they don't want their rabbit friend or their guinea pig with them, and they will start fights. They're less likely to do that if they've been spayed and neutered as well. It cuts down on those hormones. Those are surgeries we do, I don't want to say all the time, but pretty regularly.
Yeah, I think we have like 3 or 4 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we do them. And it's one of those, I do tell people too, if you're going to get a guinea pig and then you want a second guinea pig, be prepared to have 2 guinea pigs in case they don't get along. You need the space for it, and you have to have a second cage. But
yeah, and rabbit and guinea pig fights are
they're brutal.
they are worse than cat fights. I think sometimes they're really mean.
We've seen some really beat up rabbits come in here.
Yeah, especially if you have like 2 drastically different sizes, they will tear each other up. Bonded rabbits and bonded guinea pigs really are a thing, and separating them and then trying to reintroduce them can always be difficult as well. So if you ever have to separate your rabbits or guinea pigs, let us know. We can kind of help talk you through that.
And then we do, I feel like, see kind of the other big thing is them coming in for dental issues, tooth trims, especially overgrown teeth. This is more or less a full rabbit tooth. The gum line would have been up to about there, if you can see that. Not super high above the gum line is the tooth. That is all root. Rabbits and guinea pigs, their teeth grow continuously throughout their lifetime, and if they're not aligned well, or things are twisted or whatever it is, we will have to trim those teeth at some point. We do that a lot too, I feel like.
And providing good husbandry and a really good diet helps us to not have to do tooth trims, because you want to think about how a rabbit is existing in the wild. I don't really think about wild guinea pigs that way, but I feel like those probably get preyed on very easily. But think about your wild rabbit, and what they eat, and they're able to grind those teeth down so that they don't need to be trimmed. So if you are not providing that same kind of enrichment, then they're going to have these issues. Yeah.
It's, again, kind of like horses. A lot of people say rabbits are small horses. But they have to be able to grind those molars back and forward and around and up and down and all of those things to help keep them flat and worn level. Otherwise, they're going to get points that poke into their cheeks or their tongues. And then we have to float them, is what we would call it if it was horses, or trim them for rabbits, and that's anesthesia for the molars. And it's a lot on them. So if we are able to provide that good, high-quality food, again, a lot of that is hay, it's going to help keep those teeth worn. And then the big issue does become with those incisors, where it's, instead of being relatively in line, they're way off, or they grow this way. And those just are things you can't help if it's all jaw alignment.
Yeah. And then I know that you wanted to talk about scurvy, which is not just for pirates, it is also for guinea pigs.
Yeah, so guinea pigs, humans, and then New World primates, which is a whole different topic, all have a dietary requirement for vitamin C. Without vitamin C in our diet, we can get scurvy, causes breakdown of connective tissues, which are kind of everywhere in our bodies. Guinea pigs can get it too, so they do have to have some vitamin C. Their pellets oftentimes are fortified with it, so if you're feeding a guinea pig specific pellet, that might be all they need, but give them some bell peppers or some, broccoli or fresh fruits and veggies for that vitamin C, and that's always a good way to go too.
And Oxbow makes vitamin C treats that you can also give your guinea pig if you enjoy giving them treats. It doesn't really do much for rabbits if you want to give it to your rabbit too, but it's not going to hurt them. No, it's a fun treat to give.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing with our small furries is chinchillas. They're like gremlins, don't get them wet because their fur is just so dense. Like, we really have a hard time here if we have to shave them. Like,
Pain.
it's awful. Like, we feel really, really bad for them. So you actually bathe them in dust.
In the wild, it'd be volcanic dust in the mountainside that they live. They make substitutes that are pretty close for you to use in captivity. And it's once, maybe twice a week if your guinea pigs, or chinchillas, is getting really oily. But you give them that option. Don't leave it in there permanently, because if they inhale too much or it gets in their eyes, it can cause issues. But if they're not getting it ever, it will cause skin issues too. So it's a little bit of a balance there.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about, and I'm not even going to be shy about it, this is my favorite exotic that we see here because they're just so ridiculous. Ferrets. We see a lot of ferrets, and they are so funny. But they have their own specific needs, and a lot of people don't realize it when they get them, and they don't realize the smell that ferrets have because it is distinct.
Oh, yeah.
So
very musky.
Very musky. But one of the big things when I think ferrets, I think adrenal issues.
Yep. So ferrets, and we see so many ferrets that sometimes you forget that they're not just cats and dogs in smaller bodies. Most, if not all of them in the U.S., come from a facility called Marshall's Farms that inherently is a lab testing group that they breed ferrets. If your ferret has 2 tattoo dots, usually in the right ear, they're from Marshall's.
And they're spayed and neutered.
Yep. And so the spay and neuter ends up kind of leading to some issues. Not that it's wrong to spay and neuter them, but things that we have to look out for, where their sex hormones tend to flux and then they won't come out of that because they're not breeding from being spayed and neutered. And it leads to essentially adrenal disease is just what we call it. There's a whole lot that goes into it. But typically shows up as male or female, losing fur, kind of lethargic. Some of them will shake and they're just not acting super great. And then females, their vulva will get very swollen sometimes. To the point where we even just get the occasional not acting great ferret that comes in and we're like, oh, we don't see much of anything, let's try some. And it's called Lupron. It's a hormone injection. Kind of just reverses the cycle temporarily. We'll do it, it's pretty safe. Some people do it as a preventative. I don't know that we need to, but it's an option.
And we always do a big ferret special in March because that's breeding season.
The time of the year. Yep. And some of them need it throughout the year. The Lupron, depending on where you read, will last 6 to 8 weeks. There's an implant version of it that's supposed to last about 8 months for those ferrets that are coming in every month and a half, 2 months. I usually recommend that. It's easier, it's cheaper. But if your ferret only needs it once a year, the injection's fine.
Yeah, and it works really, really well for them. So if you have a bald ferret, you should probably come and talk to us about Lupron, and we can help you with that.
Yeah, and we do see, on top of that, they will get other types of cancer, things like lymphoma, so big old swollen lymph nodes, mast cell tumors, little tags or growths all over their skin, insulinoma, where their pancreas puts out too much insulin. There's a lot of information on all of this stuff online. And then I think that really the biggest thing we see them for otherwise is they're really prone to dental disease. A lot of them eat soft food, I think is probably what it comes down to. We'll clean ferret teeth too. We've done it multiple times before. We'll keep doing it if we have to. Ideally, we don't have to though.
Yeah, we would not to. It's not.
They're tiny.
They're so tiny. And it's really hard to take dental x-rays on a mouth that small. But they have very specific dietary needs, and I think that most ferrets are on some form of Marshall's diet because most of them come with the warranty if they have to be on Marshall's diet. But kibble's not always.
Well, there's some people that'll do the Y-song instead.
Yeah.
There's other ferret foods out there. Cat food for your ferret, probably not the best thing. A cat and a ferret aren't the same animal. There are worse things. So if your ferret's really being a picky eater, do some cat food.
Yeah. And then I've seen some ferrets that are on the full raw diet, as with anything, if you were doing a homemade diet, I don't care if it's for your ferret or your dog or your cat, you need to be consulting with a veterinary nutritionist. Don't just do what some random person on Facebook or TikTok or whatever told you to do, because a lot of the times they did not go to vet school, so they don't have a doctorate. And then they didn't go on to do that boarded certification, which is an extra 5 years of nutrition-only study to be able to balance these very finicky diets. And when you think about a ferret and their dietary requirements and their needs, you can't just give them cut up chicken breast and hope that that's going to meet those nutrient needs that they have.
And it's all about balancing. The diet is the big issue. And again, even with some cats and dogs that come in and we hear, oh, all we feed them is sweet potato, rice, and chicken. It might sound healthy at surface level, but even with us, if we ate nothing but sweet potato, rice, and chicken nonstop, we'd start getting sick. That's missing some key nutrients in it. You've got to balance. You've got to add in all of the other things that unfortunately have become buzzwords on bags, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Oh yeah, we'll have a nutrition podcast eventually, and that's going to be a real fun time, I think. So now the last thing I want to talk about is exotic birds. And by that I mean budgies, macaws, parrots in general, cockatiels.
The list goes on.
They're loud.
Yeah.
They're really loud. They need a lot of exercise.
Stimulation.
Yeah. They, especially like when you get into the larger parrots, they're so intelligent that they become destructive. Think about having a Belgian Malinois that's 5 pounds and can fly and is literally just as destructive. And you put it in a small cage.
Yeah, and not even to like talk poorly about Malinois, but I think some birds might even be smarter. Like people don't give birds enough credit.
They're
I
so
think
intelligent.
everyone knows crows and ravens are up there. They solve
yeah.
puzzles, they do all that stuff, but macaws, and I, talk with clients all the time about it, they're at least toddlers. They are smart creatures and they need that engagement to keep themselves healthy.
Yeah. If you are not going to train your parrot, don't get a parrot. There's some really cool things that people like train these birds to do. They train them to free fly and return to specific calls. They teach them puzzles. They teach them how to talk and like identify different things, just like a toddler. So you really need to make sure that you have the time and the space and preferably no neighbors if you're gonna have a macaw.
Maybe not in an apartment for a loud one.
That's not an apartment bird.
No.
They're so loud, and it is like a toddler. Like if you're gonna ignore your bird like you would ignore a toddler, I hope you're not ignoring a toddler actually, but if you're going to, the same way if you ignore a toddler and you ignore a bird, they get louder because they want attention and they don't understand why they can't have it. So you need to have a lot of space for them and a lot of toys and a lot of things that you don't care about them breaking into a million pieces.
And you have to be okay with the noise because, again, a lot of our exotic animals, it all circles back to being in the wild. They're not fully domesticated yet. In the wild, these birds are waking up with the sunlight screaming and trying to make sure that everybody is okay. And it's that flock alarm call. They will do it in captivity. You have to be okay with your bird calling for you in the morning. Some of them don't, but the ones that do, if your macaw is just blaring and it sounds like a car alarm, you got to be okay with that. And then when they are doing those things, if you start yelling back at them, you're encouraging it. It is not punishment. They think it's a game. So
we had an African gray here that learned how to meow simply because we responded to it one time and then he never stopped. So now every time he boards here, he meows at us and it sounds like a cat. And we also have one that does like an alarm sound. And they learned to continue doing that because we gave them attention and it took one time. And that was it.
And they also, especially cockatiels, love picking up on new songs. So if you don't like the Andy Griffith theme song,
don't play it.
One that boards here that all the time while it's here, just over and over again.
Every cockatiel knows that and the Addams Family. And that's it. That's all they know. No one teaches them anything else. Please, if you have a cockatiel, teach them something crazy, please. We would love that. So beyond the fact that you need to have lots of space, lots of time for their activities, We're going to talk smart birds first, and then we can get kind of more into the not so intelligent birds. But your bigger birds, they need specific care. So it's not just providing space and enrichment, it's providing a good diet. And I think that the rule of thumb is if it has fake colors, don't give it to them. It's sugar.
Yeah, but we were kind of talking about school, which there's maybe a little not so true to this, but for the most part, if it's a super bright, vibrant, colorful bag, it's probably not great food. Especially, again, same as like with rabbits and guinea pigs we were talking about. If you're looking at it and there's a bunch of sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and millet and all of that, seeds and nuts are okay as treats, but you really want a good, high-quality pellet as more or less the mainstay of the diet. And then chopped fresh fruits and vegetables, great.
Yeah, and I think our number one recommended diet is Harrison's. They make bird food specifically. It's pelleted diet. And they also make like a recovery diet that's very, very liquidy for birds that are like super sick. We have that as a shameless plug here, I don't care. We have it on our online store, and there are discounts in the month of August for that, so we'll ship it to you. And it is a really good high quality diet that you can just supplement with those veggies and fun things if you ever want to give like a peanut or something like once in a while.
And Harrison's has bird bread too, which is exactly what it sounds like. You bake it, let it cool down, please, and then feed it to them, and it's a great little treat.
Yeah, and it's fun. You know, it's a fun activity to do with your bird.
And there are plenty of good pellets out there. I'm not going to name a whole lot, but if you're doing like Rowdy Bush or Missouri or Tops, those are all great too. And it's kind of like cat and dog food, where we could sit here all day and argue that this brand is better than that brand. It's splitting hairs at a certain point. You just don't feed them the thing that is mostly dried veggies that I sometimes don't even think are real veggies, and seeds and nuts.
Yeah. Don't sugar up your bird and then wonder why they're crazy.
Yeah, because again, they're toddlers. If you're giving them nothing but sugar, you're probably not giving your toddler Mountain Dew all day either.
Don't do that.
It's going to be the same thing.
Don't do that for your bird. So those are really intelligent birds. And then I want to talk about some of the things that all birds are going to need. But then when we get to, I call them like your slightly less intelligent birds, like your budgies and your canaries and things like that. Like they're...
Yeah, not to say they're not smart. They don't do a whole lot of the vocal mimicry.
Right.
Maybe aren't as big on like the puzzles and everything that, you can definitely get some macaws and stuff to do.
Yeah. If you want a bird just to look at, that's a better option, providing them a nice big cage and you can sit and stare at them. If you want a bird that interacts with you, you're looking at like your bigger like conures and parrots and that kind of thing. And then something that all birds are going to require, for the most part, are beak and nail trims. And then you have your optional wing trim, and we're not going to get into the politics of wing trims because that's very divisive, I think, on the internet, to wing trim or to not wing trim. So we're not going to talk about that. You can do it. We know how to safely do it. But bird nails and beaks grow continuously, and if you don't trim their beaks especially, they can get all kinds of like beak deformities.
Yeah. And it's keratin, like what our fingernails are made out of, so as long as we are doing it correctly, which sometimes you get the chickens with awful scissor beak and it's real hard to try and correct that, but we're not hurting them. It's probably uncomfortable for a little bit because we do use a Dremel to do it.
Yeah.
And then they go home and they're perfectly fine. I don't personally like doing trims with you guys present because I feel like it does risk their bond with you if they start holding it against you. If they want to hate me, it's not fun. I don't like that. I wish your bird loved me, but at least I'm also not going home and having to play with your bird every day.
Yeah.
It's a little better that way.
A lot of the treatments that we want to do on birds, that is the reason that we want to do them away from you, is because it's okay if your animal hates us. Like, we want them to like us, of course. But
This doesn't always happen.
No, I would rather them hate me for holding them for a beak trim than hate you. Also, I don't want them to accidentally bite you because big birds like your cockatoos and your macaws, that hurts. And they'll take off a finger.
Even the little ones still hurt. They'll pinch your skin hard enough to make you bleed if they want to.
Yeah, they definitely can.
Yeah.
So I think that those are our big things for our non-reptile exotic animals that we see here. As an aside, We do see primates, but not
Not
really.
really.
Not unless you're okay with us completely sedating them, just because they have the communicable diseases that we can get, and
We can give them a bunch,
Yeah.
and I do love them, but they can be dangerous. They're
Yeah.
hard animals to take care of. And obviously, there's plenty more that we could talk about, even with the birds and the small mammals.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even talk about sugar gliders or hedgehogs today.
Or
but
rats.
Rats,
We love
hamsters,
rats.
mice, you name it, but
Yeah.
kind of a crash course, I guess.
Yeah, kind of the crash course on like the big ones. And if there's interest, we can talk about others.
Yeah.
But I think that for now, that kind of wraps up the big things. And if you have specific questions, if you own one of these animals and you want to know more about husbandry, we can absolutely
Mhm.
help you with that. We have brochures for new clients. We have little exotic bags that have some
Yeah.
good resources. I always steer people to Oxbow. Their online website has a lot of amazing resources on what you can and can't do with
Yep,
specific
yep.
exotic animals, especially your small furries. And then, shameless plug again, in August, every year we do Exotic Month, where you get discounts on anything exotic related on our online store. We'll ship it directly to you. You can buy your hay and your pellets or specific little fun toys, your Harrison's bird food. We don't really have too much for ferrets. They get their own special in March for luprons.
Yep.
So we'll see all your ferrets in March.
And then, as it comes down to it too, even if you're not necessarily a client, husbandry is one of the few things that we can always talk to you about. If it is a medical issue, you have to be up to date on an exam for us to give you advice. That's just the law. But if you call in and, hey, I need to know what pellets to feed my birds, we can give you those suggestions.
All the time we can give you those suggestions. And we'd rather you call and ask our team, a veterinary team, than trust what Samantha on TikTok
Yeah.
tells you. Sorry, Samantha on TikTok, if you're like an actual person that knows what you're talking about. But yeah, we would rather you trust one of our doctors.
Give us a call.
Anytime. Or you can reach out on social media. And I think that's it. So we'll see you next time on Life Aboard the Ark.